Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Desk. I'm Chad. I'm here with Amy, and today we're going to be talking about Colombian healthcare, a general overview. Happy New Year, wife.
Happy New Year. Well, we've been in it for just, about a week maybe.
Yeah, but it's still happy
brand new year.
Brand new 2024. I remember back in high school, we had to write everything, and it was always difficult to switch that year, going 1997, 1998. But now that we're typing, I don't think I have as much trouble, or at least
we're in the 20s.
The switch over is quicker now.
We're 2020, so it's I think it's maybe a little
I've
bit
had to fill out some stuff over the last week, and it's gone pretty seamlessly.
Good.
2024. But I've also been prepping for 2024 for a while.
And we don't really write checks anymore, so that's easy enough. Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah, we had fun time in Florida over Christmas, for Christmas and home for New Year's. And our trip to Colombia is 40 days away, maybe.
Yeah. It's coming up quick.
Very quick. We have a lot of work to do.
Mid-February. Yeah. And we, as we continue to do our podcasts and we continue to research and learn and figure out and plan and all the stuff that goes into this, not just for us, but also for people who stumble across us.
And really, it's going to be when we get there. And 8 days is really not enough to fully, get everything that we need. So we are planning to continue to talk to a lot of people, especially the attorney at Nexco Legal, to help with things like rentals or not rentals, but property if we want to buy a property, but really my visa, a visa for me, and making sure that time that we spend down there goes towards, residency for me, just all the things. But it's connecting with people that live in Medellin or Sabaneta or Envigado, wherever, to make sure that we have that help,
People here say Medellin all the time. And really, the comparison for us would be like just saying Detroit because it's such a known area. But the reality is we're in a city outside of Detroit, but we still call it that.
Yeah.
Just so people understand where we are. Same thing here, right? Sabaneta is different. Than Medellin. But
where we live is very different from Detroit.
Exactly. So it's really just like a landmark, if you will.
Yes.
But all these things we're huge proponents of control, which you can control. And we often have to remind each other and ourselves, if it's not within our control, it's not worth stressing about. But we're trying to control, at least understand what we can control so that when we get down there, we have our checks and balances in place. And one of those is really understanding healthcare expectations, not just in the event of, but when you're anywhere for a week, especially a foreign country, colds can come about. Our immune systems haven't been adapted. We need to prepare and understand what that process looks like. So today, just on a high level overview, we're going to talk about some of the things that go into Colombian healthcare. There will be a couple comparisons just so that it's understood, because there's all this misconception around Colombia, and we're going to dive into the details about it being a scary third world country.
I had somebody say the other day to me about, be careful, they can chop up your face. I was like, what? Like, there are definitely some misconceptions about healthcare in Colombia.
And you know what? Here's the thing. You don't know if you don't know.
Sure.
And people will always have an opinion, and that's fine. And that's kind of what we're doing, is we're trying to educate ourselves so that we do know.
Yeah.
So that when we do have to combat those kinds of, criticisms, we can say, well, actually, here are the facts.
Yeah, and Colombia is not for everybody. We know this.
No, for sure. So let's jump into it. Let's start off with like universal healthcare and access and everything that surrounds that.
Yeah. So Colombia's hospitals are some of the best in South America, and Medellin, I believe, has 3 that are in the top of all over Latin America. And it's also known as like a destination where you hear a lot of people go down there for dental work or cosmetic surgery, and also transplants. So that was something very interesting that I found out, is they're known for their transplant surgeries. So, and it's common for the physicians there to be bilingual, because a lot of them do come to the States for training,
Yep.
or in Europe, they'll go for their training. So that's really awesome.
And they also know that people are coming destination wise
Yeah.
there from English speaking countries to get, I hate to use the term discounted, but it is reduced
Yeah.
cost procedures. And so being bilingual for them is to their benefit, right? If you've got
Yes.
100 doctors and 2 of them are bilingual, English speaking,
Mhm.
when you're doing your research as an American to decide where am I going to go, you're going to be looking for that person that can speak both languages.
Yes.
It's just going to be less friction for you.
Yeah.
Therefore, their business goes up. So it's in their best interest
It
to be able
is.
to.
And they don't make the money. The doctors and nurses there do not even close to making the money that doctors and make here in the States. So they do highlight, like, all Colombians have access to healthcare, so they do have universal healthcare there. What I did find out, and I would like to do more research on this, is that someone who makes X amount of dollars, higher than the minimum wage, I guess,
Mhm.
you have to pay into that healthcare system, but it's not much money at all. But you do have to pay in, as opposed to those that are really low income. Theirs would be free healthcare, kind of like Medicaid here. But even Medicaid now, we're finding that a lot of people are having to pay copays and things like that. So that's really cool that for foreign and Colombian residents, they all have access to healthcare there, and there are programs that you can get into depending, like you being a Colombian citizen. As soon as you get your cedula, we still haven't gotten that. So our trip to Chicago hasn't happened.
I'll scan that this afternoon to see, because there's some efficiencies in Colombia.
Yeah.
But check this out. Just a really quick thing before we jump into the programs. On my temporary cedula that they gave me, there's a QR code. I can scan it with my phone, and it automatically tells me the status of my cedula.
Oh, nice.
I don't have to type anything. I don't have to log anything in. It's a up-to-date, mobile-friendly website. I can tell you the U.S. doesn't have that.
Yeah.
You just sit and wait. You just wait for that sort of stuff.
Huh.
There's no like, do it for the benefit of the user.
Did you tell me there was a QR code for you to scan and keep a check on that?
I don't know. I showed you the cedula.
That's
but
cool.
What happened was I was going to pull it out and see, is there any information on here? Because I was checking in December, because we were estimating December would be the time we'd have to start thinking about going out to Chicago. And I saw a QR code, and I scanned it, and it just put in my number and everything. And it was very easy to check. It came back with the status not ready yet.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it took me 10 seconds to check the status, as opposed to sitting by the phone waiting.
That's cool. I just heard this morning when I was watching. Listen, the Medellin Buzz is a really, really great podcast to listen to, or YouTube channel to watch. Andy Garcia is his name, or Andrew Garcia. He is phenomenal. A whole story behind that. He was living here in the U.S. He's born in Colombia. You'll have to listen to his story on there, but he really has great information, and he's lived in Colombia now for 13 years. So that is where I get so much of my information, and he also gives out other resources, and then I can use those as well.
I appreciate his transparency.
He's really awesome.
He'll straight up say sometimes this sucks, this doesn't suck. Like but he's straight up with it. So
he's pretty. He just, I guess, for him to stay in Medellin, out of all the places in Colombia, is that the good outweighs the negatives for him.
Yeah.
That's why he stays. So at any rate, he does a lot around, different things. And he talks about the healthcare there. And for you, because you're also a Colombian citizen, you just have to sign up for the free healthcare, and it will tell you, like what you have to pay out of pocket, because you do make, I think, a lot more than what is required there. I don't know what those numbers are, but I do know that it's minimum wage or below that you are able to get free health care, but we're going to get private anyway. So anyway, but it's also mandatory. So EPS, it's mandatory. So even if you have private health care as a Colombian citizen, you still have to be registered for the EPS.
And just to clarify that, so mandatory for all residents, which means even if you are not native born, therefore not a citizen, example, it would still be required for you because you would be residing there, right? So it's not just for me there as a native, as a citizen, but also my wife, because she will be a resident there as well, even on a visa.
To my knowledge, even visiting, you have to show that you have insurance.
Right. So that's a big deal.
Yes.
But affordable.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll be doing private anyways.
And that private insurance, I mean, that's really, if you needed a house call, doctors still make house calls there. It's incredible.
Yep.
So, however, I would like to say that the achievement on universal health care there and the healthcare system overall has just grown immensely over the past 40 years. And we were looking, you and I were looking at the World Health Organization, where they have ranked Colombia at number 22, and the United States is at number 37.
Right. So all those people are saying, the healthcare sucks there. It's great here. The reality is that's not the case. The World Health Organization actually has Colombia listed with a better healthcare system than the United States. Now, there's a lot of metrics that go into that. You know, you've got access, you've got quality, you've got the overall health of its citizens.
Yeah.
So I found another setup, and this was a study where essentially they were saying access to health and a healthy lifestyle. And that brought Colombia ranking as number 36, but the United States says 69.
Whoa.
So essentially what that, and I'm just going to read it just so that we have it documented here, but essentially what that's saying is it's based on how healthy a society is and whether people had access tools to maintain their health, including healthcare services. So even if you were saying, we've got the best healthcare, I can walk in and get just about anything done.
Sure.
What this study is saying is, yeah, but you got to the point of being unhealthy, where this other country, Colombia, ranking so much better, focuses on the preventative, so you never get to the point that you have to go in for those emergency situations.
And we can still have a cough from that virus I had. So we can do another podcast and maybe go a little bit deeper after we go to Colombia.
Yep.
But I'm really interested to go and witness it for myself. I can tell you that Colombians are very, very big on how they look and the taking care of their bodies, what they eat. Exercise is huge in Colombia. And let's be real, most people walk. Wherever they need to go, they walk. And here in the States, and they also focus on more family time and more friend time and going out and enjoying life, as opposed to this rat race here in America where, you know, we work to pay the bills. We may have some time over the weekend, but if you have a family, you're still taking care of the kids, you're running to soccer, you're running to gymnastics, all this kind of stuff. So it's busy here. Stress is higher. It's also very much a non-smoking culture in Colombia now.
Big time.
I remember I just read that.
Yeah.
And it was crazy, you know, when I read it.
The government put in a lot of things to reduce tobacco consumption.
Yeah.
The same report, I just want to list off the top five really
it.
quickly. So for best healthcare in the world, number one came in with Singapore, then Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, China as your top five. So think about, and then I'll read a couple that are just above the United States. You've got Jamaica coming in at 67. You've got Trinidad coming in at 64. You've got Lithuania coming in at 61. You've got Iran coming in at 58. You've got Saudi Arabia coming in at 56. Croatia coming in at 53. And some of the ones that we do know that we're not super surprised about that are around Colombia, you're going to have, let me find it really quick. So just above Colombia in 34 is United Kingdom.
Okay.
No, that's a relatively healthy country. You've got Canada at number 32. You've got Spain at 28. You've got France at 20, Germany at 13, and then you've got your Netherlands, Switzerland, and Sweden at 11, 9, 10.
Right.
So you've got, when you look at this, if you were to pass judgment and say groupings of people, you will notice the trends of
Mm,
areas
right.
and also their cultures, what they do, right? Your top 5 are very highly on the Asian continent, right? And their cultures, right? You can have a 8-year-old kid taking the train and the entire
Yes.
area looks after that kid. It is
Yeah.
just that supporting, it's just cultural things that they do that we don't even think about. You can't have a 14-year-old that just hops on a train in
Not here.
Chicago
No.
because that's just not part of the United States culture. So when you think about those things, you'll notice that the health, the overall health of that country kind of follows suit with beliefs and
Yeah.
behaviors.
Beliefs. That's it.
But who would have thought that Lithuania was going to rank higher than the United States? And there's a whole list of 68 others that are higher.
And we also have to take into consideration, though, Chad, is that the United States is, I mean, our population is ginormous compared to a lot of these other countries as well. So we have to
Several.
take
I mean,
that. Yeah.
you've got, Hong Kong, Germany, China, South Korea, Japan, some of the highest populated
Yes.
areas, all within the top 15 with the United States at 69. So that's a fair point, but there's also proof that that's not the only contributor.
And we could say that junk food, fast food restaurants have needing to have everything like yesterday.
Because this was based on how healthy a society is, and then their access to tools to maintain their health. Right,
tools being
well, when you go to China, there the parks have places you work out. That's just part of the culture.
Colombia. Yeah,
right, and so does Colombia. Right, so that is a tool that's
actual
provided
workout
as
equipment in the parks.
Yeah,
you're working out while your kid's over there playing.
It's a different culture.
Very different. Yeah.
Very different. So, I mean, depending upon which metric you're looking at, the United States might rank number 3. But
sure,
what ones actually matter? And this one that I stumbled across that really talks about how healthy a society is, kind of takes into account the behaviors of that society as well, rather than just saying for every 500 Americans, there's a hospital within 10 miles. Like, cool, but at the same time, what does that really mean?
It means that we live in a pretty sick culture, and you want to make sure you live close to a hospital, right? That's just already assuming that you're going to have issues and you want to be able to get there quick. So, that's sad.
You got it listed here that Colombia is among the fastest growing medical tourism destinations in the world. Okay, what does that mean?
It's very popular for tourists to go down there and have work done. I've heard of several people going to Colombia to have dental work done. It is a fraction of the cost. I mean, dental care here is so overpriced. Furniture, jewelry, dental, so overpriced. A crown, like for a molar, is $1,600. Your insurance, if you have good insurance, dental insurance, it's only going to pay 50% of that. I know because I went through it. Wowzer, who can afford that? So what do? If you can't afford it, you pull a freaking tooth and now the person is minus a tooth.
Right.
How does that help you in any way?
So most people don't know this, and I'm surprised I'm sharing this on a podcast, a video podcast, but I actually am missing a tooth here, and I have a temporary tooth, and I can tell you the mental toll it took on me.
Right.
I didn't smile for a decade. Even after I got my tooth replaced.
And how old were you when
I had to go
happened?
about a year and a half with a hole here. And I learned, if you look at me straight on how I speak, this side is still doesn't move as much as this one. I still kind of speak dominant over here because even now I know there's a tooth there, but I still have this muscle memory of hiding this gap that I have here. And you want to talk about mental health, that's something that should be covered, and missing a tooth plays a part into that. I'm not saying somebody's going to take it all the way to the level of, something very serious, but could. And the toll it takes on somebody when they have not a straight up, nice, confident
smile,
face full of teeth.
How old were you?
I was in my early 20s.
Right.
In my early 20s, I went about a year and a half without 13 stitches. And all the way up and all the way through my 20s, halfway through my 30s, rarely smiled. And if I did, my teeth were
Popped in the
hidden.
face.
You can go through my Facebook and look at the pictures, and there's
Yeah.
very few of my teeth showing.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, whether it's a crown, whether it's getting punched in the face, whether it is falling from snowboarding or skateboarding,
Whatever it might be.
whatever it is, that does take a mental
It
health
can harm.
toll.
Sure.
And I am an advocate for that sort of thing being covered by, some sort of universal or private
Right.
healthcare plan, because if my mental health is going to suffer,
then that makes you less productive in the society, which is not good for our society,
Correct.
either economically or socially, whatever it might be. So, so their infrastructure, their biotechnology, they're really highly skilled physicians. They really do cater, to tourists.
And, I bet there's also
at affordable
I bet
prices.
there's cosmetic as well, not just like procedural, but also cosmetic that gets done
Most
as well.
definitely.
Right. And again, fraction of the cost. I don't know. I had the specifics on that, but I do have someone I know I used to work with. She went to another country to get some cosmetic stuff done. And when she came back, we kind of joke with her because she got an augmentation, but she also got her nose done. And it was kind of like she got her breast augmentation done and her nose was in for free because it was so financially affordable to go to another country, to fly internationally to another country, get work done, come back.
It's crazy.
And it was still significantly less than she just did it here.
Right.
And she got 2 things done that she wasn't planning on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
If that's something that you want to do for yourself.
Right. But
that's a person's choice.
That's another just example of, the bloatedness
it's terrible here.
Of our, health.
But it's,
system.
It's a money nation we live in. So not to not love money. Like I think everybody loves money. It can give us a lot of freedom. However,
we got a comment on one of our videos from Ron the Z, and I'm just going to read it because it's related to this topic. It says, great info. Thanks. You're right about disposing all the house items. This is when we were talking about financial mastery. We had an estate sale, and it can definitely be emotional letting go of stuff. We just listed our house, and hopefully we'll be moving to Armenia, which is about 5 hours south of where we're going, in the coffee zone.
Wow.
Soon to with their wife's family. Can't wait. They never heard of an eSIM. So we kind of helped educate some folks about that electronic SIM card for your phone. And this person is an RN with a master's in nursing education and spoke about people and how they think Colombia has third world medicine.
Right.
And they are, in their opinion, as good, if not better, than the U.S. in many aspects, especially access. So somebody who's in the field and is moving there is saying access is far greater in Colombia. We went over the stats of how Colombia actually ranks higher than the United States across many different aspects. And they wanted to say thank you and they appreciate us doing this. But to hear it from somebody who has a has a master's in nursing education is just straight up saying, and they're going to a place 5 hours from Medellin. So they're going to an area that we haven't researched, but most likely probably isn't the same,
Sure.
The same thing as Medellin. It could be, but it would look like a small town and they're in the coffee district. So, that plays into what we're talking about today, but that was really great to have somebody comment and say, I'm a highly educated person. And yes, there are some issues when you compare the United States healthcare system.
And they've clearly done the research. So did they say when they're moving?
The term was soon.
Got it.
Soon with their wife's family. So
awesome.
Best wishes to them.
Yeah.
It's a really Ron to the Z.
Ron to the Z. Thanks so much.
Thanks for your comment, and we appreciate it. Your
input.
Input and support, especially with that education background in the healthcare field. Okay, cool. So jumping into, I think the last thing we want to go over was just some numbers and access, right?
Yeah. And granted, this is just overall. This is not anything exact. Obviously, we haven't been there yet. We haven't experienced this ourselves. So this has just been a part of our kind of overall research, if you will. And we're really looking forward to our trip. I think to experience a lot of this, not to have to go to the doctor while we're there, obviously, but to really talk to some locals and even some expats and say, what is this? What is that? But I think that's really what we're
Right.
looking forward to. But if you are an expat living in Medellin and you do need medical attention, it says visiting the emergency department and registering as a particular, which means a private patient. Without local medical insurance, you will be referred to as a particular and required to pay for treatment. So have that travel insurance, that medical insurance.
Right. What I translate what you just said was if you choose to do a visit, but you have an incident and you didn't get travel insurance, you're paying cash.
For sure.
Right.
And cash is king there. So, but this also may mean that you get to jump the queue, meaning people there that have the universal health care fall behind you because you're paying cash. So you're going to kind of jump ahead. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but
I can see both sides of that.
The same, but that's the way it is. And then but to be seen by a doctor, you're going to first be asked to register. Remember to take your passport, credit card, enough money. Mm-hmm. You can pay by credit card there as well. Most everywhere in Medellin takes credit card, right, which is awesome. And for treatment, you may also be asked to pay a deposit ahead of time, depending on what you got going on. And they said it's usually about 1 million pesos. I don't know if that's true. Every clinic could be different. Like I just don't know.
So that converts to about $250, just over $257.
But that's that deposit. They're making sure that they get their money.
Yep.
And I understand that. And then, after your treatment, you'll be given a final bill, just like we would. And then you'll need to pay that balance or receive a full refund if the treatment was less than expected. So that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. That totally made sense. And you can expect to pay about 100,000 pesos for an average checkup. When I did that, it's about $26. Mm-hmm. Very, very inexpensive. If you need additional treatment, obviously it would be more. And in the U.S., you would pay between $80 and $170 for a checkup. And that's according to the medical debt relief. If anybody wants to look that up and do a little more research on it. I did find out that the average stay in the United States is about 4.5 days.
In a hospital.
In a hospital, which is equivalent to maybe like $13,000. This is like even $13,000. I don't know that is a true number because who knows why you went in, right? We don't know what you got, but this is the information that was out there. I could not find anywhere. I know the average stay in Colombia in a hospital is 5 to 6 days, but nowhere could I find what the average cost in a Colombian hospital would be.
Significantly less.
Oh, significant for sure.
But
again, like, what are you going in for?
Right.
Are you having a baby? Are you going in for? Who knows?
Maybe just for us. Maybe we do look and say for a specific ailment.
Right.
Maybe do 3 of them and just randomly select 3 things.
Yeah. And I think maybe we could find out a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
I do know that chiropractors are few and far between there. So that's not something that's common there like it is here. And, I love my chiropractor here. If you do need.
So if a listener's a chiropractor, might not be a bad place to go and set up shop.
Absolutely. But know that you are not going to be making as much money there as you would here in the States.
Nor spending as much.
Yeah. But it's, much.
But if you're the only
cheaper.
Game in town, churn and burn, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Clinics, Chad, I know you can put a lot of these in the description below for folks, okay. These links, but there are different clinics, hospitals, best for expats. What was out there is Clinic Soma, Clínica Las Américas. I can't even pronounce all of these quickly. Diagonal. Anyway, there's 3 of them, and there's also one in El Poblado, which is where the majority of expats want to live. It's very touristy there, not where we will be. yeah, so we'll have some things, but really do your research, look up this stuff and find out. But just know that there are a lot of blogs out there about Colombia that have links that are broken, that are maybe not updated,
I did notice that in my
and
research.
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So, having folks that are really updated with information and doing their due diligence to research and visiting, doing that exploratory trip, going down there for a month, 3 months, whatever it might be. So look for those folks to get your information from.
Yeah. Part of our exploratory trip is also going to be, once we're embedded into the experience, is there anything that we can bring to the table where we locally are with our skill set that can help better the
Yeah.
community?
Yeah. Yeah. And so Andrew, he says that a lot with the Medellin buzz. He says, don't come to Colombia if you're looking to just be a taker.
Yeah.
Make sure you're willing to give back, because this is an amazing culture. The Paisa people, from everything that I've heard, they're just super friendly and welcoming. They love expats, especially if you don't look like you're Colombian, and they're curious and they want to ask you questions, as would I, right?
Right.
So just make sure you're willing to give back there. Go and volunteer. They have orphanages there. You were in an orphanage in Cali. Go give some of your time, volunteer at places that are really in need. Go there and teach English. This is a country that for the majority just speaks Spanish. So if you want to give back, there are lots of ways. Hire, if you're living down there for 5, 6 months, half a year, the whole year, whatever it might be, hire the locals to come in and do your housekeeping for you. If you have a house, do your lawn maintenance. Just find ways that you can give back and not just go down there and be a taker.
Yep, I agree. I love that. I'm glad you mentioned that,
Yeah.
because it is important. It's important. Even we don't do it enough here. Not we, but in general, the United States, we don't do that enough. And it's easy to fall into what's in it for me.
Bubble.
And I think it is important to get to that human side and help lift humans up the best we can.
No matter what country you're visiting, you're a foreigner. You can't go in there acting like, better or whatever. We're not familiar enough with that culture, and we can't go in expecting to change people to ours either.
And
that's not fair.
Frankly, they may not want that.
I would assume not,
Yeah.
So, which is kind of what has happened in Mexico. Speaking of that, and their healthcare there, is that is one of the most obese countries in the world, because a lot of the United States' culture has fed there with all the soda drinks, the pop, Cokes and Mountain Dews and all that other kind of stuff, sugar, buffet, all you can eat. Like, let's just gorge ourselves on food. And, I don't think that's, that was very kind to spread that there. So, and who doesn't love sugar? So the next thing I wanted to talk about was, and I touched on it earlier, was the dental.
Right.
And don't have a whole lot about that, but it's usually about 50% less the cost there than it is in the US. And I will tell you, there are people that leave the US and go to Colombia to have their teeth whitened and have implants done, crowns, all of that kind of stuff. And why wouldn't you? It's hella cheaper. And that is also something else that the Colombians take pride in, are their teeth. From my understanding, you will often see them brushing their teeth after their lunch.
Right.
Like, they carry toothbrushes and toothpaste with them. So that's really great. These are good habits, to take on. So the dental care there is highly affordable, because that is a huge part of their culture, is taking care of themselves. So
love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's a really good rundown. So private insurance.
Yeah. Make sure you have it.
Make sure you have it. Make sure you have enough cash in the bank just in case an incident does happen, or carry a credit card that has a limit. That deposit was around $250,
Sure.
$255.
Make sure you have room on your credit card.
Make sure you have room on your credit card. And depending upon where you're watching this, either in the description or in the comments, you'll find the links to the clinics that we talked about.
Yeah.
including Newsweek's best hospitals in Colombia. So we're going to have some really good detailed information there that you can just click through. And
Medellin
yeah, what did I say? In
in
Colombia. Yeah,
Colombia.
yeah. And I think that's about it. What do we got coming up for next week?
Yeah. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more on safety. There have been some things happening in Medellin that are not good, but we're going to talk about the why behind these folks that have so unfortunately lost their lives or have been drugged and robbed. So we want to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But until next time, keep expanding your horizons and living beyond the desk. Hope everybody out there has an extraordinary week.